Welcome to Success Matters. On today's episode, I'm joined by Tara Rule. Tara has carved out a space where her passion for change is making a huge impact. Her journey began with a desire to help people one by one. With her blog and Facebook group, Busy to Balance, Tara's blog became more than a digital platform. It evolved into a catalyst for change. Her thoughtful reflections, along with commitment to inspire action, resonated with thousands of people. Tara had found her calling, a calling that extended far beyond the boundaries of the virtual world. Driven by a desire to facilitate real change, Tara transitioned seamlessly from blogging to coaching. Tara's coaching style is characterized by empathy, profound insights, and a relentless dedication to empowering others. Through her coaching, she has touched the lives of thousands of people, guiding them to unlock their true potential and navigate the complexities of life with resilience and purpose. Join us as we discuss how Tara is now on a path to help millions transform their lives. Well, Tara, thank you very much for joining Success Matters. We've known each other for a while, albeit through Women in Sales and then following each other on LinkedIn. You put a shout out on your LinkedIn to take part in some podcasts, and I know you've recently started a coaching business as part of that. Let's start more at the beginning. How did you come to be in the coaching world?
Yeah, so I have realized for a long time that I love helping people.
Okay.
And actually it all started about 10 years ago when my old boss, he suggested that I mentor somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally was like going, and what value could I possibly add to this person? My boss at the time was like, oh my goodness, you do not see like what potential you have. And I was like, no idea. So I started mentoring this woman and I just loved it. And I loved it for two reasons. One is because it helped her and I could see literally straight away what I was saying, how it was impacting her positively. But I also loved the fact that it made me stop and think about me.
Right.
Because she'd ask me questions going, how do you ask such great questions in trading meetings? And I'm thinking, I've no idea. I just ask questions. So it made me stop and reflect going, I can't tell her, I don't know. So I'm now going to have to think about it. So I then go, okay, so I try not to make it personal. I try to kind of make it sound like we're together. So, right, we've missed our number rather than you've missed your number. So it kind of broke down, helping me massively grow as a person so that I could answer. And I kind of then, I used to work at O2. I worked at O2 for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And I helped a lot of the people on the grad scheme that were there because they just asked for advice. It would end up just being coffee chat, mentoring. And then I moved to Adobe and I went on a 2-day coaching for leaders course and I loved it. And I've realised, because I say, oh yeah, I'm quite a good coach. I'm quite a natural coach. And I realised, no, I was really good at giving advice.
Right.
So giving advice is fundamentally different to properly coaching somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I said to the trainer, I said, but I get that coaching is all about asking questions rather than giving answers. But what if I've got some really good advice?
Uh-huh.
Like, what if I got... And she said to me, are you that arrogant that you think that any advice you're going to give is going to be better than what somebody could come up with themselves? And I was like, oh, I've never been called arrogant before. I just want to help people. So it helped me kind of open my eyes to a different way of helping people. Mm-hmm. Instead of going, hey, yeah, I've got all the answers, it's a completely different way going, I believe you've got the answer inside you. Let me ask you questions so that you can find the answer. So that's really how it all started. It started with mentoring, started with helping, and then realizing actually coaching's even more powerful.
Right. Okay. And it's quite difficult, isn't it, to not offer your opinion when you're going through a coaching conversation, particularly when you may have been there yourself, right? You may have gone through that same sort of thing. So how do you hold yourself back, or do you sometimes actually offer that advice or that guidance because that person just can't see it, that they've got it in front of them?
Yeah, I think the big thing is kind of really starting with curiosity. Mm-hmm. So some people will say to me, I really, even in a coaching proper coaching kind of environment, they'll go, I want your advice. What do you think I should do for X?
Yeah.
And I'll probably have an opinion, but I've effectively trained myself to ask questions first. And sometimes I'll signpost it and go, right, I've got an opinion, I've got an answer. However, before I share that with you, what have you already thought of?
Right.
What are you thinking could be? And if I've got a couple of ideas to go, I'll maybe write them down. Just kind of a couple of words so that I'm not always thinking about it, so that I'll kind of write them down. And it's amazing how often people get there themselves. They don't need me to tell them. So, yeah, it's just starting with that curiosity, go, what have you already thought? What could you do? What is possible? And then sometimes, because I think I've kind of got a quite adaptive, quite a versatile coaching style. If I'm feeling that actually there is something that could still really help them, I would offer it. Right. Rather than going, I tell you what you need to do. Actually, you were all wrong. I do it very softer to go, I've got one other idea that's worked for me if you'd like to hear it. So I'm kind of offering it for people to say yes or no. And they might go, no, I'm good, actually. I think what I've got was fine. But yeah, you offer it instead of going, I tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've got something that's worked for me. You might find it useful.
How did it feel when you were called arrogant by that trainer?
Oh, it really hit me.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's 7 years later and
you still feel it.
Oh, no. Because I think although I know I come across as a very confident person, for years I've had to work on my inner confidence.
Right.
So like my confidence isn't necessarily natural. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of coaching and a lot of mindset work for me to actually feel confident.
Okay.
And I think that all stems from some beliefs of, not necessarily being good enough. So when kind of I was called out going, hey, are you that arrogant? I'm like, no, that's the complete opposite of what I'd want to come. So yeah, it definitely triggered me. Definitely.
Right. And then as part of that coaching work, did winning the Best Mentor Award in Women in Sales Awards, did that help you recognize that you actually had it in you? Or were you still feeling you didn't quite have it?
Still feeling it then.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And I remember the journey of going through Women in Sales Awards and having to prepare for it. So for my category, it was Best Sales Mentor. And I had, I think it was about a 3 or 5 minute pitch that I had to give.
Right.
And there was lots of different stages, but I remember one particular, I had to give examples of when I'd been a brilliant mentor. And I'm there going, oh, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Write down it. Oh, I'm amazing. And it wasn't natural at all. And I loved it because it forced me to stop and to think about how I'd helped people and to shout about it effectively and kind of take the ownership to go, yeah, I did help them, which felt very, very uncomfortable. But I loved the journey I went on because I wrote down lots of examples. I remember picking out 3 stories and really thinking, how can I share that in a way that is true to me, which doesn't sound really arrogant and, obnoxious, but at the same time took ownership to go, hey, this is a competition. And I did make a difference. And I do want that to shine through because I would love to win the award. So I think that was part of the journey of me helping me recognize, actually, I'm quite good at what I do. And that took me a long time to be able to say that. Right.
Okay. And when you were going through that exercise and kind of doing that self-reflection, how much imposter syndrome was still there in your mind as you were going through that? Like, were you thinking, okay, I'm writing all of this down, but I'm still not good enough. Was that still there as part of that?
So I'm kind of got a yes and no answer. Okay. And I hate yes and no answers. Is it yes or is it no? So I think throughout that process, I was able to go to really own the fact that these stories I was giving, how much I'd helped people. So for those particular things, I think the imposter went away and I was like, no, I definitely helped these people. And it was really lovely to remember the stories and the things that people had said to me. So I remember one person phoning me up and saying, I've just been offered my dream job and it's because of our conversation.
Right.
Like, amazing. Somebody else, this is another story that I told for Women in Sales Awards. Somebody else I'd mentored, and I'd made such a positive impact on them from mentoring them that years later they decided to roll out a mentoring program at their company, and they invited me along to do the welcome and to introduce and to kind of kickstart it. So kind of just going, that ripple effect created, that's massive. So I think for those, I was kind of going, I probably got over that imposter to go, no, these were brilliant. However, the reason why it's yes and no is because actually that imposter definitely deep-rooted. So it didn't go away altogether, but just for those couple of things, I learned to go, I made a difference there.
And now you set up your own business. It's been, a year since you started and left the safety of corporate world?
7 months now.
Months, okay.
I set up the business a couple of years ago. So I had 18 months where I was kind of building my audience, not necessarily having that many coaching clients, but had set up the business. But yes, 7 months ago, I left the safety net of corporate life.
Right. And how's the business going?
Fantastic. Honestly, I absolutely love it. So kind of just the fact that I'm the CEO and founder of my own business is pretty awesome, pretty amazing. I set myself a goal to become VAT registered this year.
Okay.
Now I know it might sound a bit of a weird goal, but I am an accountant by trade, so I am a little bit. But for me, being VAT registered means that you have to hit certain
financial. Yeah.
I had to hit certain financial milestones. So I was like, that's what I'm aiming for. This isn't hey, I've set up a little side hustle and hopefully I'll just earn a little bit of income to tick by. I was like, no, I really want this to be a successful, flourishing business.
Yeah.
So I set myself a goal by the end of this year, and the beginning of November, so 8 weeks before I'd had that goal, I achieved it. So I'm already VAT registered, which I'm like, yay! And I get to pay the tax man more money.
Yes.
But whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, that's a strange outcome. Okay, I want to pay the taxpayer more money, but I get what you're saying. It was a milestone that was important to hit for you, and they kind of showed that. And is there a particular focus that you have in your coaching and the sort of work you do?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a professional coach, but I'm also a positive psychology coach.
Okay. And
positive psychology is basically it's focusing on what's working rather than what's not working. That's it at its simplest. So I help busy professionals and business owners to feel more confident, to get a better work-life balance, and to feel more fulfilled in life. So that's really kind of my core focus when it comes to coaching. But then I also deliver workshops. So I go into corporates, I go into companies, delivering workshops so that I can help leaders to maximize the impact of their team. So by the fact that I've got a lot of corporate experience, I love running the workshops, means you can help people at scale. So I've done one earlier this year where there were 600 people. Last month I did one where there was 150 people. I've done ones when there are 10 people in the room, so kind of really at scale. So I love that, but then I also love the one-to-one and the group coaching where we're kind of having the very direct, so what's stopping you? Helping people figure out their mindset, how they can get more confident, how they can stop procrastinating. So there's kind of really two arms of my business.
Right, okay. Which do you find is more meaningful for you, the one-to-one or the group and workshops?
It's really hard question, that one, because I genuinely love them both. And I think I'm using different skills for both, but at the same time, I'm using skills from both of them for each other. So for example, I know with coaching, the impact comes from helping you get to the answer. So it's not, hey, I'm going to tell you the answer. It's helping you get to the answer. So when I do my workshops, I'm really focused on not just going, hey, I'm going to talk at you for the next hour. It's going, no, I'm going to talk for a little bit and then I'm going to ask you a question. So I want you to put it in chat or say, talk to the partner next to you or put your hand up and share in the room, depending on kind of what environment we're in. So I think I bring in that coaching element that I know is impactful into that group workshop style.
Right.
So I really do. I genuinely love both.
And the theme for my this current season of Success Matters is healing the world and changing the world. And I'm speaking to people like yourself who are doing their bit to change the world in whatever way. So what would you say is the ripple effect of the coaching that you provide, and how that's then helping not just the people that you're working with, whether it's a group or one-to-one, but actually beyond them, into their families, into their friends, into the circles that they operate in?
Yeah, definitely. So I started my kind of coaching journey. Actually, it's just come to mind because you asked earlier how it all started.
Yeah.
So I went on a week training session. So I used to work for O2, and I was fortunate enough to go to Telefonica University, which was in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fantastic week-long, very reflective program that I went on. And I realized then, and this was probably about 9 years ago, and I realized then that coaching was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the plane on the way home, and I wrote my first ever blog.
Okay.
So I've got a blog called Cocktails and Coaching, and I wrote my first one on the plane because I was there going, I think I can help people.
Mm-hmm.
And it started off by me going, I'm going to write this blog, and if one person reads it, then that's fantastic. It's like, forget about how many likes, how many views, because it's so addictive.
Yes.
To just look and go, oh, did I get any likes? Did I get any comments? Like, no. So I really just kind of said to myself, just one person. And sure enough, most times when I put a blog out, at least one person either would walk up to me into the office or comment or reach out to me and go, I loved it. It really resonated. So I've always kind of stuck with that, going, I just want to impact one person.
Yeah.
And then as I've really thought about my business purpose, it's been about positively impacting just one person. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of grew and went, do you know what? I know I do that. So then I said, right, I want to positively impact hundreds of people.
Right.
And then quite quickly I was going, okay, yeah, I know I do that. So then I got to thousands, and then I go, yeah, well, I've got quite a big LinkedIn following. I run workshops at scale. So I go, yeah, I'm at the thousands. Okay, now let's go to tens of thousands. Mm-hmm. And then it gets to the point going, well, you can't really measure it. I'm not keeping a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But then somebody challenged me and they said, well, why not think bigger? What about millions? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's a scary number. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm writing a book at the moment. So actually it's like, yeah, I will be able to help even more people once my book's released. Mm-hmm. And then I've kind of really just molded it even further and going, I want to positively impact the world.
Yeah.
And it's actually going, and whether the world means millions or whether it means one person, doesn't matter. Just positively impacting the world is kind of my mission. And I know the ripple effect is real.
Yeah.
I've had people message me afterwards saying, somebody I remember did a group program with me, and they messaged me afterwards and said, I've realized that prioritizing me and putting myself first actually has made my whole house happier.
Right.
And that's the thing. People often think it's selfish. Well, if I prioritize me, if I think about what makes me happy, if I think about what I'm good, well, that's really selfish. And it's amazing, that word. People go, I couldn't possibly invest in me. I couldn't possibly focus on me. I couldn't take the time kind of every week for this. But actually, when you hear that going, somebody saying, I've realized my whole house is happier when I'm happier. Yes. And then I coached somebody else and they loved it. And they said they're bringing it into their team. So they said they run a workshop with their own team, taking a lot of the learnings that they've got from our program. So yeah, just that ripple effect is so real, and it's so don't know quite what the word would be. Fulfilling, maybe.
Fulfilling, yeah. Fulfilling was the word that was coming to my mind as you were talking through there. Would you say there's a difference between, so just going back to the kind of story about someone feeling a little bit selfish maybe and putting themselves first, would you say there's a difference between men and women in the way in which they view that?
So it's funny because quite a lot of my audience are female. Mm-hmm. So just by the fact that, you know, the people that are in my world that attends a lot of my programs, I do have more female people attending. So I know it is real. Kind of a lot of women do have this inner critic and these thoughts and that feeling selfish. However, I coach men as well, and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Exact same. So it's not to say, and the way I like to think about it is we all have an inner critic in our head. All of us, male, female, however you identify, everybody has an inner critic in your head. And that inner critic is saying things like, you're not good enough, you have to be perfect, you're not smart enough, like all these things. And what I help people recognize is that inner critic there is there to keep you safe. Yeah. That's it. So actually teaching you to embrace it and say thank you to your inner critic, and then choose to listen to your inner cheerleader instead. So what's your inner cheerleader saying? Well, your inner cheerleader saying, no, you are smart enough, you are good enough, you do deserve this. And I think the difference is some people have a really loud inner critic. And when I say to them kind of, what's your inner cheerleader saying to you? Sometimes people go, oh, God, I don't know. I haven't listened to them for a long time. And some people, they go, no, I'm aware of this inner critic. This is the thing they say, but my inner cheerleader is really loud and kind of that's the inner critic away quite quickly. So I think it's just about, how loud those voices are. And it's really dependent on the stories that we've told ourselves and the beliefs that we have and our backgrounds and our past, because we're all different. Yeah. So it's really helping people figure out what are those stories, what are those beliefs, and is it serving you right?
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. As you know, the title of this podcast series is Success Matters. If I could give you a magic wand and you could sprinkle your magic fairy dust over everyone, what would success look like for you in doing that?
I think success for me, as I say, it's about like positively impacting the world, but I think it's around the impact on other people, feeling happier, knowing it's okay to feel happy. It's not selfish to be happy. For more people to feel more confident, because we stop ourselves doing things. I almost didn't start on my own business because I would literally say, I'm not an entrepreneur. Anytime somebody said, oh, you're such an amazing coach, would you ever do this full time? I'd go, no, I'm not an entrepreneur.
Right, yeah.
And I realized it was just a belief that I was telling myself. It's not true that I'm not an entrepreneur. It was just a belief that was trying to keep me safe to go, nope, stay in the corporate job. So I think, my fairy dust would to help people to feel more confident and to know it's okay to be happy and to reach for that happiness.
Right. And maybe that inner cheerleader voice stronger than the inner critic? Or is it actually the right balance between? Because I suppose, yes, you said the inner critic is there to keep you safe, right? So there is that element of sometimes you may need to listen to your inner critic because it is keeping you safe. So how is that balance made right between the two?
Definitely. And a question I often ask my clients is to think about, is it serving me right now? So, for example, the fact that kind of for a long time I had a belief that I'm not good enough, actually that really helped drive my career forward. I was always a top performer. I was always identified as kind of high potential. I would get promotions. I would get jobs. I would never miss a deadline because it was kind of driven by that, oh, deep down, I don't think I'm good enough. So therefore I'll go the extra mile. So yes, it's got those positives. However, I had to really lean in going, is it serving me right now? When I realized there's something that I love even more, which is coaching, if I'm not doing it because I'm too scared of failing, actually, is that serving me right now?
Yeah.
No. Okay, what do I want to tell myself instead? What do I want to believe instead? So that's the question I often ask, going, is it serving you right now? Because, these things, they have the light side and the dark
side. Yeah, absolutely. So we've kind of covered this already. I always ask a previous guest to ask a question for my next guest. And the previous guest asked, and I'll just read it out to you. What was the point in your life where you knew your purpose?
Ooh. I would say it was just about 2 years ago.
Okay.
2.5 years ago, maybe. So I was already 40. I was either 39 or 40. And I read a book, and halfway through the book, it said, what is the worst case scenario for your career in 5 years' time?
Okay.
And that question in that book made me stop for 2 days.
Right.
I was like, ooh, okay. So to start with, I went, the worst case would be having a more senior role in the company that I was in, still writing slide decks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, no, that's really harsh. That is not my worst case. That would be a brilliant scenario. That's not really my worst case.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that was my initial reaction. So then I was like, oh, okay. So then I said, right, no, the worst case would be to try coaching and fail.
Okay.
I was like, that would be awful. And then I was like, no, the worst case would be to have never tried coaching because I was too scared of failing.
Yeah.
And that then was when I realized, do you know what? I need to figure out what this is. So then I went on a journey of being coached myself and going, right, so my purpose is to coach, is to help people. And through that, it was around to positively impact the world. But yeah, that really started by me asking myself the question, what's my worst case scenario in 5 years? And then going, so what's the best case?
Yeah. And I suppose it's interesting you stopped for 2 days to think about that, because oftentimes you'll read a book and you might pause for thought, but you won't necessarily stop and actually really examine that. And I love the way you reframed it from, well, I might get a promotion and still be doing, these slide decks, and that would be that. But actually you reframed it to the worst thing would be if I didn't try it, right? And I should try it. So what was the name of the book? Do you remember the name of the book?
Yeah, it was by a woman called Harriet Minter, and it was called Working from Home. Working from How to Build a Career You Love When You're Working from Home, I think it's called.
Right, okay. And was it something that she kind of issued because of the COVID lockdown and everyone was working from home? Was that the...
Exactly. I think she actually was starting to write it already, and then with COVID, it was like, right, this is the book.
This is right, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, it was kind of we were out of lockdown, but it was still around that time when I read it. And yeah, just that question absolutely floored me.
Right, yeah. And it's a really good question, actually. I might start using it in my own little coaching repertoire of questions to ask.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really powerful one. Yeah. But it's also then to frame to go, helping people think about the worst case, but then again, thinking about that positive psychology that I do, which is worth focusing on what is working, then to go, so what's your ideal life look like in 5 years?
Yeah.
Go, right, let's not just focus on what we don't want, because that's what you often find people say, hey, what do you want? You go, well, I know what I don't want. I don't want to be working all these hours. I don't want it. It's like, no. What do you want? So helping people reframe to go, what do you want? What do you want to work towards?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But 90% of the time when you ask someone what they want, it's often what they don't want rather than what they actually want. So yeah, it's really important. Do you have a question for my next guest?
Yeah, definitely. So my question would be, if you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to them?
Okay. If you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to them?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to ask that question back to you, Tara. What would you say to yourself?
I hadn't actually planned for that one. So I think there'd be an element which is understand you. So understand what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, what triggers you, what your values are. Because the quicker and the sooner you know more about you, the happier and more successful you will be. So I think that would be the biggest thing. And I think there's also an element that I'd say to myself, trust yourself, because do you know what? You've got this.
Yeah.
It's all going to be all right. So, yeah, I think definitely that belief as well.
Right.
Waited till I was 40 before I sort of done myself, and you go, oh my goodness, what opportunities did I possibly miss out on because I waited?
Yeah. I mean, I do wonder if there's an element of having to go through those episodes in your life that when you hit 40 or you hit a particular sort of milestone, that you're able to look back and see how far you've come and therefore feel more confident about yourself than necessarily maybe when you're 18 years of age and you're looking forward to a life ahead of you that you don't necessarily know what's coming down the line. So therefore you're not so confident about it.
Yeah. I think there's also an element around, I think when we're younger, we just kind of go for stuff. And I think as I got a bit older, I potentially was going, well, why do I potentially say no to stuff?
Right.
So, there's not that many things that I've said no to, but it's just going, oh, hang on. Well, why did I? And is that serving me? Is that helping me? So I think it's only as I personally have got older that I've gone, oh, I want to understand myself even more and go, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's come as I've got older.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing is you've got children, I've got adult children. As a parent, when you kind of have these conversations, they don't necessarily land as well as a parent as if someone else was saying that same sort of thing to them.
Definitely. And it's amazing as well. So something that I've learned more as through being coached is just how many of our beliefs come from our childhood.
Yes.
So, whether it's about money beliefs, like money doesn't grow on trees, or whether it's about food, no, you have to eat everything on your plate. You have to eat, we hear these things and then they stick with us. And I had a bit of a revelation, whichever, probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Just a couple of months ago when I realized that my dad, when I was younger, he used to run a couple of businesses. He was a hairdresser. He had a couple of businesses. And I remember as a kid him saying, I'm too nice to run a really successful business.
Right.
So his business didn't necessarily grow and blossom. He did okay, but it wasn't as successful as when somebody else took over the business and they were quite kind of a bit more ruthless and then were seen as having a more successful business. And it was only literally a month ago that I realized I had this belief fed from what my dad used to tell me, which was I'm too nice, I'm too nice to be a successful business owner. And I kind of pride myself on being a nice person.
Yeah.
So I realized that I have this belief that I'm too nice to be really successful. And then the realization I had was my dad, unfortunately, he passed away 18 months ago. And we were with him. So we had 6 months notice and we were with him. So in his last 30 hours, it was him, my mum and my 2 brothers, and maybe we were all together. And I'm literally going, if that is not success, like spending your last moments of your life surrounded by your family, surrounded by love, if that is not success, then what on earth is?
Yeah.
I then had a massive reframe to go, at no time will you ever hear me say again, oh, my dad wasn't really that successful. It's like, no, reframe, complete reframe. So yeah, just our ideas of success as well. It will come from our childhood and we don't necessarily question it. We don't think about it. But when we do, then we can go, oh, I'm gonna challenge that because it could hold us back.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what your father's kind of his self-belief that he wasn't ruthless enough to be a successful business person. But as you say, depends on what you're measuring success as and how you're framing that. And if you're framing it just in the millions of dollars of turnover or pounds of turnover, that's one thing. But framing it in terms of having a loving family around you, that's a completely different thing, right? And that's the important part. And that's really what this podcast series is all about, is examining what does success mean to different people, because we often get caught up in the Instagram moments, if you like, of people with their fancy car or fancy house, and that looks like success, but actually the reality is that's not necessarily successful for everyone, right? It might be for them, but it's not necessarily for everyone else. So that's very important.
Exactly.
That's very important.
Yeah, and there's a load of documentaries at the moment. So I recently watched one about David Beckham and about Robbie Williams as well. And they're people that you look at and go, oh my goodness, how successful are they? How rich are they? How successful? And then you watch these programs and you go, oh, you've gone through some heartache. This is so we have this image of other people going, oh, they have that, and that means they're really happy, really successful. And it's like going, no, not necessarily. And I think happiness and success, I like to think about both of them going, it's not a destination, it's a journey. Mm-hmm. So if we're there going, I'll be happy when I get married, I'll be happy when I have kids. I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be happy when we get that house. Same as success. I'll feel successful when I've got that promotion. I'll feel successful when I've got that 100% target. I'll be successful when I've got that. Actually, we're just chasing it all the time.
Yeah.
So actually helping people to flip it to going, feel happy now, to feel successful now. And that doesn't mean you have no aspirations for anything else in life. Because I think sometimes people go, well, I just want more. And if I say I'm happy, if I say I'm successful, that means I'm never going to achieve anything more. It's like, no, that's not. But enjoy the journey rather than just chasing the next thing.
Yeah, that's really, 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 really important perspective to have on that. So we're at the top of our time now, Tara. It's been a really fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for taking part. If people want to find out more about the work that you do or find out more about you, where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media, apart from TikTok. Don't follow me on TikTok.
Okay.
No. But I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the primary one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just find me, Tara Rule, and LinkedIn. But I'm also on Instagram, Tara Rule Coaching. And I've got a Facebook group called Busy to Balance as well. But I would say if you connect with me, drop me a line. Say hi, say that you listen to this because, as you know, I love to positively impact people. So I'd love to know, just drop me a line and say you listen to it. And
Perfect. Yeah. And that was Busy to Balanced was the Facebook group that you got.
Busy to Balance. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you once again, Tara, for that. It's been really fascinating and I've really enjoyed the conversation.
You are so welcome. And if you're listening to this the back end of 2024, you'll also be able to go on Amazon and find my book as well.
Brilliant.
So that's coming out in June 24, which is great.
Do you have a title for your book?
I do, but apparently you meant to keep it all secret.
Oh, okay. All right.
But it's about how much we apologize and it's about our confidence and our mindset.
Okay.
So, yeah, kind of a lot of what we've talked about today.
Perfect. Great. Well, I look forward to that book coming out in 2024.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
If you'd like to find out more about how you can find your success, contact me at info@successmatterscoaching.com. That's info@successmatterscoaching.com.